This is the 2023 Kia Sportage Hybrid with all-wheel drive. Today we're heading into the mountains to see if this crossover is ready for adventure. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. The Sportage is Kia's compact crossover that competes with the likes of the Mazda CX-50, the Honda CR-V, and the Subaru Forester. The model we have here is the SX Prestige Hybrid, an upper mid-level trim that features a hybrid powertrain, panorama sunroof, large digital displays, and 18-inch alloy wheels. Our test vehicle also came with the optional shadow matte gray paint, which looks amazing. But beware, it does take special care because you cannot take this through a car wash. Price as it sits here, $38,155 US, including destination. That may seem rather expensive, but you do get a lot for the money. Under the hood is a 1.6-liter turbocharged engine mated to a single electric motor for a total system output of 226 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. The transmission is a 6-speed automatic. EPA rates economy at 38 miles to the gallon in both the city and the highway. Though you can get a PHEV version of the Sportage, that's one that you can plug into the wall, this one is a standard hybrid, which means A, you don't plug it in, and B, you don't really get much of an EV dedicated mode. The plan for today is to take this up into the Olympic Mountains, where it's been both cold and wet, so snow is a very strong possibility. When heading off into the woods, tires mean everything, and what we have here is not that exciting. These are Goodyear Assurance tires. They are an all-season radial at a 235/60 R18. The one thing I do like is that these are 18-inch rims, which means we have a lot of sidewall. In the back, you have a really nice flat trunk with enough room to sleep if you need to. Love the panorama sunroof. Under the floor is a spare, but it's a temporary and it doesn't match. It's nice they have a 12-volt socket back here too. Now I am tailgating the truck in front of me because we have a camera attached to it. That is our Rescue Ranger, which is out here to make sure that I don't get stuck. And I have to say, you know, I really, really like the interior of this Kia. You know, some Kias just don't work for me, but this one really hits. It is good. I like actually all the little fussy details. I like the metal work. I like the inset dual screens. This is really just a very cool looking interior, and it's very airy because like everything is below me and I get good visibility out the front, side. That B-pillar is a little bit on the thick side, so I sometimes have trouble on acute angles seeing traffic, but other than that, it's actually pretty good. And of course, any holes can be filled in with the surround view camera system, which this also has. One of the big features of this vehicle is the fact that it gets 38 miles to the gallon claimed on both city and highway. Now, I have to say, in the real world here, I have been driving for close to an hour, actually a little more than an hour, and I am averaging 34.6 miles to the gallon. That's over 42 miles of driving, and that's been mostly highway. So it's not really getting all the way up to 38, but it still is a very good number. I'm kind of getting to the point though where, you know, mileage, if you buy something like a 4Runner and drive it like a 4Runner, it's going to get MPGs like a 4Runner. If you buy something small and compact like this and you drive it like you normally drive a compact crossover, you're going to get within a few MPGs of every other crossover. Really what comes down to is not what you drive, it comes down to how you drive it. If you want to have, a Honda CR-V to get really, really good MPGs, just drive it really conservatively and it will deliver that for you. Here, it is better than most others, but when you're talking within like 1 or 2 MPGs, unless you're doing just a ridiculous amount of miles, ultimately, it's not going to be a huge difference. Not enough, to upgrade from one vehicle to the next necessarily. Everybody's situation is different though. I understand that. Most of the road out to the mountains here are this kind of winding highway that kind of goes up and down along the coastline. And, I've found it very comfortable. The seat supports really nicely. I have lots of power adjustments here, which is nice. Also, I want to note that the passenger side also gets power adjustments. They didn't cheap out there, so that's really good. One thing I am noticing about this vehicle that I'm kind of surprised with is that the dampers feel really good. I mean, it's very good at dealing with road irregularities. It'll be interesting to see how it feels when we get into the forest and we're on dirt roads. But right here, it's very comfortable. It's very smooth, and I like it a lot. I keep getting collision warnings because I'm close to the camera in front on purpose. Don't panic, it's all good. I will say, though, that this car actually did give me a false collision warning a couple days ago when I first picked it up. Yeah, not good. It slammed on the brakes when a car in front of me was slowing down, but we were nowhere near even in like heavy braking yet. I had my foot on the brake and it slammed on the brakes and gave me all the alerts. We're cruising along on Highway 101 up the Hood Canal portion of the Washington Peninsula. This is a really nice kind of smooth rolly road. It's really fun actually, but it's not very tight. It's still kind of a nice flowy road with some really good views of the water. But the terrain we're on is going to change very quickly. As soon as we head off this road, we're going to go onto a paved forest road, which will then lead us to a dirt road, which will then climb us up a small foothill, which will then give us an epic view if the weather agrees, and we might hit snow on the way up. Now, this vehicle is equipped with all-season tires, so that means that it's not going to be great for dirt, it's not going to be great for snow. I totally know that, I totally get it. But what happens is a lot of people will buy these vehicles and they'll go on, hey, hun, let's go to the trailhead or something like that. And they're not going to buy new tires just for the once-a-year venture up to a trailhead or up to the, to go look at a view. And that's what we're mimicking here. Also, when we take this vehicle into conditions that are beyond what the tires are spec'd for, it really puts a strain on the all-wheel drive system. It really will show us how power is distributed around the system. That's one of the reasons why we look for dirt and snow, even with all-season tires, is we can really see how power is shifted around the system. And whether it gets stuck or not is not usually the point. Usually the point is just to see how hard does it try. It's like a good school. In a good school, if a kid is trying really hard, they should get a passing grade. However, if they're just not putting their heart into it, then you just want to fail them, right? Well, that's exactly what we're doing with tests like this. We want to see who's putting in the effort. So this vehicle does have a lot of good things going for it. Earlier, we did take it on our off-road short course, and there it did pretty well. It lifted a wheel, yeah, because that's just going to happen. But more important is that the approach and breakover angles were quite good. It didn't scrape. And we modified the course recently to make sure that it would rub on vehicles that lacked clearance. And this one got over it just fine. Also, on the varying pothole terrain, it shifted power as needed. In terms of hybrid versus non-hybrid, I think you'll find that the Kia system, it doesn't really matter which one you get because it still will have the same all-wheel drive system. Think of all-wheel drive as independent of the power source because we have the gas engine and the electric motor in line into this system before it even gets to that transfer clutch in the middle, which makes it very different from Toyota's system, which relies on a separate electric motor in the back. Okay, off the highway. This has been a very enjoyable drive so far, almost an hour and a half, and I'm totally comfortable. Now let's see what this can do on the forest road. I think my biggest concern today is actually just the paint. Because you see these matte paint jobs, you can't take them into the car wash. They scratch really easy. And they're just difficult to deal with, long term. If you're driving this car every day and you want to do a quick wash or something like that, not really an option. And even if you wash it yourself, you have to be very careful to wash the vehicle properly. You can't just take one sponge and run over the entire thing. You'll get grit in the sponge and scratch it all up. So you just have to be really careful. If you like this paint job, and I do think it's awesome, just be aware that there is a commitment to owning this kind of a vehicle. It doesn't, and that's just not Kia. That is all matte paint jobs. You have to be really careful with them. So far, no sign of snow. That's both good and bad. And I'm kind of glad that we don't have any snow yet, because I really want to be able to get snow at a higher altitude after we have a chance to drive this on gravel first. But, with nature, sometimes you just don't get to choose. Nature chooses for you. There is, of course, a strong possibility of getting a down tree today. In our Rescue Ranger, we do have a small hatchet, so we can clear some of the basic trees. We also have a tow strap in there. At least I think we threw the tow strap in there, which can help pull a tree off the road or even pull this out of the snow if necessary. And this vehicle does have a tow receiver in the back with a loop, so we can yank from the back if necessary. Kind of always surprised when vehicles don't have that. Like the Toyota RAV4, for example, does not have a tow point in the back, which can be a little frustrating at times. Yeah, this is really nice. Liking it. Yeah, still averaging 33.2 mpgs. Very nice. Okay, this is where things get interesting as we head off the pavement and onto the gravel. Now that we're on the gravel, we can kind of play with this a little bit. I'm just in smart mode, but I'm curious how this all-wheel drive system shifts power around and if it's possible at all. Ooh, there's a little bit of that waggle when I come out of the corner, probably because of the soft suspension here. Overall it feels pretty good, but it does feel like the front suspension in particular is just really soft. I'm getting a little bit of rotation here. It is letting the back kick out just a little bit. It's probably almost imperceptible on camera, but I feel it. Yeah, it's kind of okay, but it kind of has a weird, like, gyroscopic feel. It's almost like it's a fake rotation. Like, it's just so slow to come back into line. It's a little weird feeling. Now I'm going to do the same lines, but I'm going to switch it up into sport mode and see how that changes the dynamics. So as I throttle in, oh, that power is pretty good actually. Love the power here. Watch the big rocks. It's slow to respond and it's really mushy in the front. So, as a rally car, it's not my favorite. But it is comfortable and it does have power and it is definitely pushing power to the back. All of these are very good things. Remember at the beginning when I said that it was really good this had a big sidewall? Well, that's because you can be a little bit more brisk in conditions like this and not worry about hitting a pothole and pinching that tire against the wheel. I think my biggest problem with the setup is actually the steering feel. It's really hard to tell exactly what the front wheels are doing, and it gives this really artificially drifty feel. So you combine the kind of numb steering with the soft suspension, and it gives a really weird feel. Not something I want for sporty driving. Although the power and the all-wheel drive distribution definitely seem pretty good. Okay, as we're climbing up this mountain, I am going to slow down a little bit. I don't want to hit an errant boulder on the side of the road. What I am looking at here, which is interesting, is this all-wheel drive distribution. As I go faster, it does continue to provide all-wheel drive. However, when I was doing that hot cornering stuff, it really felt like it was much more of a front-wheel drive bias, and so I think that that's probably the case most of the time. I'm going to go ahead and switch this into all-wheel drive lock and see if we can get this to get a little bit more neutral feeling. Not really. I think it's just the dynamics of the vehicle and how it's set up. Oh, by the way, spectacular view. That looks amazing. So as we continue up here, I am hoping that if we get to the top of this, we'll be able to get a nice view of Mount Rainier. I'm not seeing any snow, so we're actually okay on snow, which is kind of sad. So hitting this center lock button actually does make quite a lot of difference, because it always wants to be more front bias until I put the lock on, and then it gets closer to a 50-50 split. But it is still variable. Oh wow, there's a lot of trees down today. Luckily, somebody has been through here and has cut a route through, so we don't need to get a chainsaw out, which is nice. There are little spots of snow on the side of the road, but I don't think we're going to have anything on the main track. So let's take a look at setup here before we tackle this kind of, it's not a terribly difficult climb, but it does have enough undulations that it's going to make the vehicle probably work for its victory. At least I hope it does. So I want to see what the all-wheel drive system's doing, so I'll put it there. I'm going to lock the center clutch. And for drive mode, you know, I want to see what snow does. Let's give it a try. Snow is for slippery conditions, so it should be pretty aggressive at switching power around. So I'm just going to ease on the throttle. Now, snow also usually deadens the throttle a lot. Oh yeah, 50% of power, so it's giving equal power front and back here. Okay, now we can finally see this all-wheel drive system doing something. Come on, is it shifting power around? My foot is to the floor. This isn't moving. Okay. Let's change drive mode. I wonder if it's cutting power too much. We'll go to Smart. Smart is actually what Kia Hyundai always recommend to me when I ask them what's best for off-road, but I think that might just be punting an answer. So here we go, just crawling forward. Interesting. In Smart, it's allowing the power to go down, but it's really having an issue here. Let's try, we'll give a little momentum. Wow, this is having a heck of a time. It does great until it doesn't. Cut in a little bit more. It just can't shift that power around. I have the clutch locked. Yeah, center clutch is locked. It's in Smart mode. Can we get around that corner? Okay. Oh. Now I'm just climbing and my foot is to the floor. It is not doing anything. This is not that steep of a climb. Huh. Honestly, did not expect it to have troubles here. Come on. Really, really force it up. Force it up. Force it up. Can I get it? Man, this is not happy. Can we get to the top? Can we get to the top? And so we did manage to get to the top, but it was a lot more dramatic than I thought it would be. It had a lot of problems with that last climb. Now, to enjoy my view. Well, that was a hard-won victory, wasn't it? I have to say, I loved this vehicle up until that climb. That was not a very difficult climb, and this vehicle just threw in the towel. Very disappointed by that. Otherwise, I think it's great. It looks fantastic. It drives on everyday streets totally fine. I would even drive it probably on fairly level surfaces in the snow. It'd probably be fine. But man, one little thing like that and you are working for the victory. Oh well. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you, and I hope you enjoy them. Too bad the mountain's not out today.